Hello, it is June 21st and it is 1:56 a.m. I just had to make this video right now to clear up a few things and let everyone know about a few things. Um, so first of all, my face skin color changes because they change it. They have these tools that they use to change up my facial skin color and everything about my face in order to make me look different or bad or whatever they feel like. Just like how they changed my personality from not being able to smile all day like how it's supposed to or how it usually would. Anyways, so the thing that I had to really talk about right now today is the fact that law enforcement has been basically, so what has happened is law enforcement has, they've lost all of their talking points, okay, because all their false testimonies have been caught. So basically in 2023, when I thought that I would get my brain savant freed and I would finally be able to study after August 25th, 2023, what ended up happening was law enforcement tried to fabricate a false testimony against me based on a wedding incident. A wedding that I was not present in, and nor did I have anything to do with. Now, the thing is, the way law enforcement handled this wedding incident is exactly what shows absolute guilt from their part. Law enforcement basically acts like they are, they own the law. They decide who's guilty, who's innocent, whom they could frame, whom they could do anything against, anything that they wish to do. Now, the thing about this wedding incident from 2023 is law enforcement tried to frame me for it after August 25th, 2023, after spending the entire year of 2023 doing nothing but running money fraud and sex schemes the entire year. Law enforcement's behavior in reacting to certain situations has always been the same, which is why I know what the results of every single crime or incident that would occur would be. It's happened throughout the entire course. Law enforcement doesn't hold extreme envy against the person. They're not gonna, they don't care. They're just gonna go tell him like, hey, look, you're becoming a nuisance in our sex schemes and money fraud. Can you just stop doing what you're doing is all they would do. They would never investigate anything. They never have. The wedding incident, the reason I know for a fact how it's been handled is not just due to the fact that throughout the entire year of 2023, law enforcement was running money fraud and sex schemes the entire time, sex schemes that started in 2001. The reason I'm so sure about how the wedding incident was actually handled is due to how law enforcement has handled everything. So in 2011, I went to go meet my dad, the Greedy Framer. I've only met him about 3 times my entire life. And that one time when I went to go meet him in 2011, basically the man, I've never met him my entire life. My mother didn't really tell me much about him. And basically, yeah, I've never lived with him, not even in the same country ever in my life. And I've only met him about 3 times in my entire life. Yeah, even when I was overseas, it was basically my mother working at a Food Lion grocery store to help pay for like my exam fees. She would pay for my food. She would pay for my transportation, my photo state shop, notes getting copied, stuff of that sort of nature. My mother basically paid for all of it, even though she didn't earn much, and she did pay for all of it. He doesn't earn much either. He's not a licensed doctor. All he does is work at a hospital, and he's not a physician's assistant or anything of that sort of nature. If he was, he wouldn't be blackmailing me with price tags of money all day and night long or frantically calling me every time he gets caught with a lie. Now, he's been caught with numerous lies over and over again. The last time was May 2nd, 2026 at 12:48 p.m. he starts to frantically call me, and we all know for a fact that this was obviously because he was caught with another lie. Now, the thing is, in 2011, the thing is, so before we get to 2011, what we have to talk about are the numerous lies that my dad, the Greedy Framer, has been caught with. So throughout the entire year of 2025, like a crazy, frantic maniac, my dad, the Greedy Framer, was basically running after me the entire year. and he would get rejected. Obviously, I never liked him. I never got along with him. He's a psychomaniac. I used to watch him beat my mother as a child, and so I have nothing to do with him. I've never lived with him. I've only visited him about 3 times my entire life. So I ignored him, and I was really polite to him in the start, but after a while it became clear that he knew about my brain savant money potential, and he was basically just running after it. Throughout the entire year of 2025, I basically ignored him. After I won my case June 28, 2025, he started to run after me like a psychomaniac. June 29th, he puts ads all over my YouTube all day long. And then on July 18, 2025, what happens is he starts calling my sister and saying things like, "Oh, I'm remembering the baby's son, and I'm thinking of the baby names for him. I feel like he's just been born right now." You have to remember the fact that this is July 18, 2025. And only a few weeks prior, before June 28, 2025, when I won my case in court, my dad, the greedy framer, was making videos claiming that I was a danger to society, I'm this and that, blah, blah, blah. Everything bad you could claim about a person, he was claiming it, basically. And the reason he was making all these claims about me was basically to enviously lock up my brain savant. The reason I know this is due to the fact that on November 20th, he begged his framer sisters to get a false testimony from law enforcement and make a false testimony against me that basically made me look so bad that no news reporter on CNN was able to smile on live TV for days after November 20th. So that's how I basically know for a fact that he was claiming all these bad things about me, obviously just to try to enviously lock up my brain savant, just so that my mother could not get any of the money that he basically wanted for himself. And I'll tell you exactly how greedily he was trying to get this money. So basically, the reason I know for a fact that he made these false claims about me was because on November 20th, 2025, he was getting his framer sisters to basically make a false testimony against me that created mass panic and chaos throughout the entire news media, only for us to find out the crime and setting did not even exist. So basically, after June 28, 2025, when I won my case, he was frantically running after me over and over again every single week like a crazed maniac, frantic maniac. And he got rejected every single time. He tried June 28, July 18. He would tell my sister things like, "Oh, I cry about him all day," just so that he could try to get me to go to him and take all the money for himself. He's a very greedy, selfish, disgusting individual. So on November 1st, 2025, I basically rejected him again. And at this time, obviously, he goes into a frantic panic, maniac, like any psychopath would do. And he tells all of his sisters to go and make sure that my brain savant could not get freed, just to make sure that my mother could not get the money that he cannot get. So basically, they fabricate a false testimony against me on November 20th, 2025, that creates mass panic and chaos throughout the entire news media. No news anchor after November 20th is able to smile on live TV for days afterwards, and people like Governor Josh Green on CNN are forced to say things on November 27th like, "We have to remove the confusion. Confusion is the enemy over here." The reason he was saying that was not because of the vaccine confusion at the time that he was supposed to be worrying about and everyone was supposed to be worrying about. It's because my dad's greedy framer sisters created so much mass panic and chaos and confusion throughout the entire country over a crime and setting that did not even exist, claiming that they really did witness me commit the crime. And the reason they were doing all of this was because my dad, the greedy framer, had basically begged them to make this false testimony against me. So basically, this false testimony is made and it creates mass panic and chaos only so that my dad, the greedy framer, could rest assured that my brain savant could not get freed. During the fabrication of this false testimony, my dad's framer sisters also confessed to the government informant that after making this false testimony, they were going to add numerous lies against me as well, just to make sure that there was no way that my brain savant could get freed. Yes. So basically, they make the false testimony, and as soon as they make the false testimony against me on November 20th, a few weeks later, they start making lies about me. Not knowing that there were people that were government informants, my dad's framer sisters had already confessed to not only basically fabricating the false testimony on November 20th, but also numerous lies that they were going to make against me following the false testimony. So basically, following the false testimony, my dad's framer sisters go ahead and make those numerous lies against me. And thinking that there's no government informant, there's no problem, no nothing at all, they start making up more lies against me while this false testimony is already there. And basically what ends up happening is, well, the person who they fabricated the false testimony with and whom they confessed to these being lies to was a government informant, due to which everything was fully caught. My dad, the greedy framer, then obviously what he does is his November 20th false testimony fabrication and lies caught. Numerous lies early March 2026 that he gets his framer sisters to make against me just to make sure that my brain savant could not get freed are all caught as well. And so basically, he's caught. And there's nothing else he could do. So now basically what he does is he tries to go after greed, since enviously locking up my brain savant is no longer an option anymore. And the first instances when he finally, I think he starts to realize that his lies have been caught, and not only November 20th, but the numerous lies ahead are also caught, I think was probably around February 11th. So on February 11th, the psycho maniac, my dad, the greedy framer, starts frantically calling me 22 minutes past midnight, messaging me saying things like, "It was so nice to hear from you after so long," after trying to enviously argue against me in court all day, February 10th. And he sends me a porn star's picture named Sunny Leone with his sister, Farah the Greedy Framer, at 3:17 a.m. and 3:56 a.m. His ugly weirdo sister from Florida, he sends me a picture of her, someone resembling her, like a very disgusting individual. I don't know what he was thinking, but the porn star picture, it kind of looks like he was trying to get me to commit incest with his ugly weirdo old sister named Farah the Greedy Framer, in hopes that he would get illegal assurances of money, since enviously locking up my brain savant was no longer something that he could do. So basically, he's already told on February 11th that this is an open advertisement for incest when you're sending someone a porn star's picture named Sunny Leone with your sister Farah's name on the bottom on February 11th at 3:17 a.m. After his numerous lies have fully been caught, and he realizes that it was the government informant, on around March 7th, 2026, he sends me the same porn star's picture named Sunny Leone 3 times on that morning with his sister Farah's name on it. He does this because he's a disgusting individual, and he thinks that he could get illegal assurances of money through me by doing that. Then on March 10th, his big fat ugly sister named Afreen, he sends me sexually explicit pictures of women resembling her, March 10th, 2026, and every single day afterwards to try to get illegal assurance of money through that. While doing these things, he's also tried to ask law enforcement to ask me if I was willing to sleep with his ugly weirdo wife, Big Beaver Teeth, on March 12th, 2026. Basically, yeah, he's gotten into a frantic maniac situation, and the man just goes from greed to trying his sexual perversions, things of that sort of nature. And then basically after that, he sees that all of his lies are caught. Not only November 20th that he begged his framer sisters to make, but that numerous other ones that were already confessed to the government informant as being lies as well were also all caught around early March 2026. And I think around February 11th, 2026, he got the message that the courts really looked like they knew that these were basically lies, which is why he was already panicking and acting like a maniac at that time. continuously repeating lies that were already confessed to the government informant as being complete lies that they had already planned to use against me, basically. So yeah. And so February 11, 2026, the man was going into a frantic maniac situation, calling me frantically 22 minutes past midnight, sending me a porn star's picture that same night through 17 a.m., sending me someone resembling his ugly weirdo sister at 3:56 a.m. The man was gone and basically he's a frantic maniac. He went into a frenzy, basically. He was in a state of panic, thinking that my brain savant would get freed and my mother would get all the money from it. So basically, yeah, early March, March 7, 2026, he was basically, what happened was this psychomaniac sends me that same porn star's picture with his sister Farah's name on the bottom of it, in hopes of trying to get illegal assurances of money. And then seeing that I was not interested in his greedy tactics, nor his, nor any of his, tries to make these false testimonies against me. All these false testimonies were completely fully caught, and I was not interested in any of his weird, greedy, incest-filled tries. What he does is he enviously tries to make up more lies, and this time he claims to the court, saying with very aggressively, he goes, "This time I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth this time." And he aggressively tells the court that more lies about me. And then this time the courts are forced to retrieve phone conversations, only to find out that this psychomaniac with his 5-foot-long beard was lying once again. And I told the courts right away, I was like, you guys are going to find out from the phone conversations just retrieved that every single thing that this psychomaniac had just said right now is a complete and total lie. From the facts and evidences retrieved from the phone conversations. And that's exactly what happened. Every single thing was a lie. Now, the thing is, the way that law enforcement handled the situation from 2011 with the psychomaniac is just lets you know exactly why I'm so sure about how they handled the wedding incident and any other incident that could have occurred. Basically, in 2011 was one of the only times that I've ever visited my dad, the Greedy Framer. I've only seen him about 3 times my entire life. And in 2011, when I went to go see him, he was giving sermons to people from his house every single day in masses, telling them about basically encouraging violence against innocent human beings, telling them to mass murder innocent human beings, join terror groups, basically saying that the jihad should go on and things of that sort in nature, encouraging the mass killing of innocent human beings by giving sermons on it every single day from his house in 2011. What happened was, one day after doing this every single day, one day suddenly he stops. And when he stops suddenly one day, basically that's when I realized that this man is basically has been tipped off. Obviously, you don't just change overnight like that. Okay, there's definitely something that had happened. Definitely something that had happened because of which he suddenly just stopped, and basically he was tipped off by law enforcement somehow. Law enforcement is doing the exact opposite of what they're supposed to be doing, basically, in this incident. What they were supposed to be doing was that they were supposed to investigate this situation, send in someone to find out how many people he sent to terror groups, how many mass murders have occurred because of him, how many people have acted on the sermons that he'd given, how many people actually attended the sermons that he was giving every single day in 2011. That's not what law enforcement did. What law enforcement did was tip him off and let him know, say, look, we're trying to run sex schemes and money fraud over here, and you're becoming a nuisance to our work. Basically, this is how law enforcement's handled every single thing since the quote-unquote investigation started in the year 2011. They have been running sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws in 2011. In 2023, when they were trying to aggressively frame me for this wedding incident, law enforcement, the entire year of 2023, was running money fraud, where they would basically steal money from unemployed disabled Americans and then wire transfer it to their friends, tell their BFFs running the money fraud, you keep some, we keep some. And basically wire transfer that money to their BFFs in law enforcement. And at the same time, they were helping run sex schemes for people like Uncle Joey at the funeral in November 2023. This is basically how law enforcement has handled every single thing throughout the entire course of the quote-unquote investigation. Exactly how they handled my dad, the Greedy Framer, in 2011, by tipping him off instead of investigating him. So basically, when they tried to frame me for the wedding incident in 2023, I knew right away that they were confessing to their own crime. Basically, the reason was due to the fact that since I was a child, I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. I wasn't present anywhere, ever. And when I was a child, my mother worked at fast food restaurants from one place to another. There was no way I'd go to a wedding. Barely ever went to any weddings, like either if it was us at sister's wedding in 2003 or any other one. So nor did anyone ever call me over to their house to tell us secrets about things that happen at any weddings. So we didn't know. We didn't care. We weren't anywhere to be found, me and my mother. We were just working hard since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. Now, the thing about it is, before I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, my mother would work at fast food restaurants, and she would basically leave me any place where anyone would basically watch me for free. That could be Uncle Joey, that could be anyone else. And the thing about it is, law enforcement knew about this fact, and they knew that since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was never present anywhere, ever. But when I was a child, my mother had a dependency, as a single mother would, working at fast food restaurants, leaving me behind with anyone who would be willing to watch me for free as a child. And basically, if anyone said anything bad around me, since the war occurred when I was that age, I was really, really young. I was a child, and I didn't have any mental maturity. I couldn't even be left at home alone. And if my mother left me with someone while she worked at fast food restaurants only because that person was willing to watch me for free, well, the war had just occurred at that time, and I was an 11-year-old child. And if the person said anything bad around me, law enforcement would try to blame the child for that, in that situation, which would be me, while completely ignoring the adult himself. And the adult, the law enforcement would run sex schemes with, like how they did with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, or money fraud, both of which are still going on till this very day today, and money is still being exchanged. Now, the thing that you have to remember is the fact that children are not held liable under the law. And the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, like how my mother was saying on February 15th at 8:30 p.m., I was never around anyone ever again throughout my entire life. From the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never again around anyone ever again who could say anything even remotely considered bad around me ever again. And the thing about it is, if anyone did say anything bad around me as a child, you have to remember the fact that law enforcement, they basically never cared. And they ran sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, money fraud later on, and both of which are still going on till this very day today. Law enforcement never cared about a thing ever, not once, not ever, and only to care about it when they found out about my brain savant, to try to blame me or frame me for as many things as possible, only to find out that the things that they were basically trying to frame me for, I could not be even remotely present in, like the wedding incident from 2023. I wasn't present in it. I wasn't, no one ever said it ever around me. No one invited us over to their house to tell us about it either. So basically, law enforcement cannot use these talking points themselves, where they could claim that someone said something bad around me as a child when I wasn't even mentally mature enough yet in the world. The reason is that law enforcement would be BFFs with this individual from that time till right now, and running sex schemes with people like Uncle Joey's in-laws from that time till right now, or money fraud from that time till right now, money which is still being collected till this very day today. So basically, law enforcement cannot use these talking points. And the thing that you have to understand about these talking points is the fact that I would be a child in this setting, and the adults would be people like Assad. Assad would be present in every single wedding, in every single crime, every single situation. And the thing that Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019, Assad would know about, even though I told Bushra Akhtar, I don't know about this, and please don't tell me about this. I really don't care. Assad would know about every single thing considered bad ever occurring. You would not care a thing about it. And instead, you would have people like Assad present in every single crime scene that there were at the time, not caring the least bit about anything at all. So basically, Assad would be involved in the crime in the wedding incident. Assad would know about what Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2023. And like law enforcement running money fraud the entire year of Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019. And like law enforcement running money fraud the entire year of 2023 while knowing everything about what Bushra Akhtar was saying, or helping Uncle Joey with his sex scheme at the November 2023 funeral, Assad would also know about every single thing considered bad, be present in the crime scene for whatever they were trying to frame me for in the wedding incident, never asked a single question about anything. To the point that right now, when we have the trial going on, law enforcement was extremely desperate. The reason was they needed narrators. Law enforcement themselves were found guilty in 2023, unable to narrate in their own trial. Afterwards, they had my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters. They made one false testimony after another. November 20th, created mass panic and chaos, followed by numerous lies being used one after the other, all caught through government informant testimony or phone conversations having to be retrieved. Law enforcement needed more narrators, so they brought in people like Assad. Assad was an adult during the war. He was involved in crimes at the wedding incident during the war. Assad knew about other things that are going on that Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019. Never cared about a thing about it, never reported the thing, was involved in the crimes. At the end of the day, law enforcement covered over everything, let people like Assad go. Assad is found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt while narrating in this trial. What does he do? He simply packs up his things and leaves. That's not how investigations are run. Right now, Assad could be asked questions. They can ask him right now, Assad, what was the wedding incident? Where were you at that time? What was going on? Nothing. No investigation ever run before, no investigation being run right now. It's just BS is the only way I could describe it. And as soon as they find out about my brain savant, people in law enforcement are inhibiting me from being able to study because of my brain savant. You have to realize how this thing has evolved. Every single time they find out something more about my brain savant, they inhibit something more. So starting October 2019, I would stare into a textbook from morning till night, from when I would wake up till when I would go to sleep. Excuse me. And the only reason I did this was because my brain savant had evolved. When I was a child, I would stare into the History Channel logo from morning till night, till at nighttime my mother would turn off the TV and tell me to go to sleep. And then the next morning I would wake up and do the exact same thing. That was the early part of the evolution of my brain savant. I told this to everyone before I went to Russia in October 2025. Some people might have believed me, some people did not. They called me all kinds of things and they said, this is a beautiful lie, this and that. I did not think that this thing could ever be tested. Now, law enforcement, unfortunately, has been given one of the most advanced technologies that people in this court or trial could ever even imagine being existing in this world. And I know this for a fact due to the fact that after I told everyone that the earlier part of the evolution of my brain savant was me as a child, and as a child, the autistic brain savant that I have, basically from morning till night, all I would do was I would stare into a History Channel logo. From morning till night, I would just stare into it. If there was a documentary, I'd watch it. If there wasn't a documentary, I would just commercials going on, I would just stare into it. And I told this to people that this was the earlier part of my brain savant, autistic brain savant, and before it evolved into giving me all these powers like photographic memory, innovation, and focusing. I told this to people, but obviously people, being themselves envious people, they want to take my word for it. They said it's a beautiful lie, nice story, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I told them the truth, that when I was a child, I would stare into a History Channel logo, and I would do this from morning till night. Till at nighttime, my mother would come and turn off the TV and just simply ask me to go to bed. And the next morning, I would wake up and do the exact same thing, turn on the TV, stare into the History Channel logo for morning, and then at nighttime, she would come over, turn off the TV, tell me to go to sleep. And the exact same thing would happen the next day. And the whole day, from morning till night, I would just stare into the History Channel logo. And that's how the autistic brain savant that I had started off. Obviously now, I stare into a textbook like how I did from October 2019 till July 1st, 2023 for 4 years. Law enforcement uses severe amnesia drugs and locked up my ears like how they are right now, even though on April 22nd, 2025, these ears were all the way on the back of my head when they were unlocked by law enforcement. Now, the thing about it is, the entire 4 years, law enforcement used severe amnesia drugs on me. But the thing about it is, I told people about this, that the starting part of how my brain savant evolved, this is how it basically was like. And obviously people said all kinds of things about me, like, oh, this is a beautiful lie and this and that, till on January 20th, 2025, law enforcement's given such advanced technology that they were just able to tell their computer to lock up the remaining parts of my brain and let the autistic brain savant from childhood stay, and the computer did that, due to which on January 20th, 2025, I got the same exact same feeling I used to get while watching documentaries as a child. This was the most earliest part of how my brain savant started off. Yeah. So basically, it was tested. It was found out that I was telling the truth on that as well. That this is how my brain savant started off. And when I was a child, I would stare into the History Channel logo from morning till night, till at nighttime. My mother would come over, turn off the TV, and tell me to go to sleep. The next day, I would do the exact same thing. And the next day, the exact same thing. So basically, this is how my brain savant started off before it evolved. Now, after it evolved, what happened was during pharmacy school, it evolved into me having all these powers like photographic memory, innovation, focusing. I could do an entire textbook of something like medicinal chemistry in 1 day's time. In fact, it would be a lot less than 1 day's time. I also have innovation that was tested a few weeks before April 22nd, 2025. And I also have focusing tested August 9th, 2022, giving me the ability to use these powers continuously without any breaks, even a second long break needed. August 9th, 2022 was powerful enough just because the ear drugging was lowered, even though my ears were still locked and my brain savant could not reach its full potential like how it did April 22nd. April 22nd, the powers would increase. It was tested by letting go of my brain savant, and my ears were able to move from here to all the way on the back of my head, and the inside of my brain would go from that to this, meaning that the powers that I have on August 9th, 2022 for 6 hours would be increased exponentially. Very more, hundreds of times more powerful than what it was on August 9th, 2022 for 6 hours. And so law enforcement, the point that I have to make is the fact that when law enforcement would find out certain things, they would start inhibiting those things. So what happened was around June 15th, they did a test in 2023. And in that test, law enforcement found out that my brain savant powers increased over time. They thought that the reason it increased over time was due to the fact that they let me stare into textbooks from October 2019 till July 1st, 2023. So this test occurred around mid-June 2023, and after July 1st, 2023, law enforcement no longer let me stare into textbooks anymore. So basically, yeah, everything that law enforcement, my point is that everything that law enforcement is doing is because of my brain savant. They don't let me stare into textbooks anymore only because they think that my brain savant powers would increase over time more if they let me stare into textbooks, despite them using amnesia drugs on me, which is true. It increases over time nonetheless. We found that out November 14, 2025. But if they let me stare into textbooks, if I'm in my natural habitat, it increases more. And if I'm in my natural habitat with all my powers, then it increases even more and much more exponentially. And yeah, that is true. But the law enforcement has no right inhibiting that just for that reason, because they're envious of the fact that my brain savant powers are increasing over time. Now, the thing is that my dad, the Greedy Framer, is a very aggressive man. I used to watch him as a child beating my mother every single day, which is why my mother was forced to leave him, and we could not live with him anymore. A psychopath whom I have nothing to do with, and I never got anything from him, not a single penny. My mother paid for everything while I was overseas. Yeah, food, transportation, exam fees, pretty much everything. And even when I was overseas, I've never lived with him even in the same country before, never talked to him on the phone. And he doesn't even work as a medical doctor. In fact, law enforcement knows of an incident known as the infographics incident, where he went and he tried to scam a hospital into thinking that he was a medical doctor, only for it to become an episode on the infographics channel about a man who was not a medical doctor and was working at a hospital as such for many years before he was caught. So basically, yeah, he's not the kind of person that anyone would want to live with. And right now, he's only enviously trying to lock up my brain savant to make sure that my mother cannot get any of the money from it, while greedily trying to do things like get me to commit incest with his big, fat, ugly sisters every time he gets caught, like how he tried March 7th, March 10th. And yeah, he's a very disgusting, perverted individual. Anyways, it's him that law enforcement has basically given these talking points to. And it makes absolutely zero sense, since law enforcement cannot use these talking points themselves. And they're giving it to someone whom they were supposed to investigate in the year 2011, but they never did. And they're giving it to him because he has the most invalid motive for trying to lock up my brain savant, to enviously make sure my mother cannot get any of the money. And they're giving it to him despite him having been found making numerous lies against me over and over again, one after the other, getting caught each and every time, and then frantically calling me to try to beg me to give him illegal assurances of money, like how he did on May 2nd, 2026 at 12:48 p.m. Only to try to get illegal assurances of money from me every single time he would get caught with another lie. And he's lied over and over and over and over again. This thing where law enforcement wants to claim that someone might have said something bad around me as a child does not make any sense. Ever since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, all I've done in life is work hard throughout my entire life. Well, law enforcement has been BFFs with that individual who could have said anything bad around me as a child. And yeah, the facts and evidences show it themselves that law enforcement never cared about a thing that anyone could have said or did around me as a child. Now, no one did anything bad around me as a child, but the example that I will give will show the courts exactly how much law enforcement cares about anything at all. Right now, we had Assad narrating in the trial, and we've just found out right now that Assad was involved in the wedding incident that I was not even present in. I couldn't be. Poverty was a blessing in disguise for me. I could not be present anywhere due to my mother working at fast food restaurants and me not having the money or the means to be able to be present anywhere except for working hard for my mother. Poverty was a blessing in disguise for me. People like Assad would be present at the wedding incident. He'd be present as an adult. He'd be involved in the crime scene. He would never be asked a single question by law enforcement. Whatever Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019, people like Assad would know about. He would never report it. He would never care a thing about it. And yet, he would know about much more than what Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019. And yet, law enforcement has had people like Assad, who was a criminal as an adult, who was supposed to be questioned and maybe even charged for crimes, as an adult, never questioned for anything. And yet he's narrating in a trial that he has absolutely nothing to do with except for trying to enviously lock up my brain savant after in the year 2024 trying to run after me with this weird Coke bottle ad on my TV screen saying hello brother on there all day, just so that he could run after these girls that were trying to run after me at that time, because law enforcement went around telling people about my brain savant. And so basically Assad is a prime example of how law enforcement has handled everything in this investigation so far. Assad was never questioned about a single incident or thing that ever occurred, ever. Assad was involved in the wedding incident, crime, or whatever it was that occurred, never questioned about a thing. He knew about every single thing that Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019 and much more, and he was never questioned about a single thing ever before. The courts have to look at exactly how law enforcement had handled people like Assad. They never cared about a single thing. He was an adult, chargeable, present, and yet law enforcement never cared about a single thing. Instead, law enforcement has had him narrating in a trial only to try to enviously lock up my brain savant. People like Assad were adults, never charged, never questioned about the wedding incident, what Bushra Akhtar was trying to tell me in 2019, anything else. My dad, the greedy framer, was an adult in 2011. He was supposed to be questioned, asked questions after being investigated to try to check to see how many people he sent to terror groups, how long he had been given these sermons, what he was saying in these sermons. None of this ever happened. How many people are killed because of these sermons, we don't know. He was giving from his house in 2011. My dad, the greedy framer, was. No one ever cared about a single thing about it. Instead, my dad, the greedy framer, was let go of after being tipped off by law enforcement. Never cared a thing about it. Same thing happened with Assad. Same thing happened with my dad, the greedy framer. And yet, these people who were supposed to be charged as adults are now trying to claim that when I was a child, someone might have said something bad around me, due to which I should be charged right now as an adult. That does not make any sense whatsoever, since children are not held liable under the law, and as soon as I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was never seen or present in any setting where anything even remotely considered bad was ever said around me, and law enforcement never cared about a thing. And we know this for a fact, since law enforcement handled that situation just like how they handled Assad or my dad, the greedy framer. They ran sex games with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001 and money fraud with other individuals, or maybe could be just Uncle Joey, and which are still being run to this day right now, and money still being collected, which makes absolutely zero sense trying to blame a child by saying that it was a child's fault for merely being present in a situation where anyone could have said something bad around him, not done like what Assad did at the wedding incident that we're speaking of, that I could not even afford to be present in because poverty was a blessing in disguise for me, or what my dad, the greedy framer, was doing in 2011 either. blaming a child for something that someone might have said around him when he was a child, not even mentally mature enough to be left at home alone, like how my mother was saying February 15th at 8:30 p.m., is insanity, considering how law enforcement handled the adult themselves who could have said something bad by running sex schemes or money fraud with that adult. From that time when they could have said something bad around the child till right now, money still being collected, sex schemes still being run right now as we speak. It's insanity blaming the child from that setting right now when the child was not even present in that situation ever again, since the child gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. And the adult who could have said something has been running sex schemes and money fraud with law enforcement from that time till right now as we speak right now. And law enforcement is not being charged. That adult's not being charged. That adult was never questioned. Law enforcement is not being questioned on why they never did anything. And people like Assad and my dad, the greedy framer, who were involved in crimes, with Assad being involved in the wedding incident crime or whatever it is that occurred, and my dad, the greedy framer, giving sermons for people to join terror groups in 2011, never charged for any crimes despite these people doing things. And the person who could have said something really considered bad around me as a child never questioned for a thing for what he could have said around me as a child. Instead, that person would have run sex schemes and money fraud with law enforcement from that time till right now as we speak, with the money still being collected right now. And law enforcement wishes to say right now, after all their fabricated false testimonies, including November 20th, numerous lies following that, with the government informant testifying about it, numerous lies following that, with the phone conversations having to be retrieved, only to find out that every single thing was said was a lie. Group chat false testimony coming out of my overseas pharmacy school that law enforcement fabricated, a 10-year-old child claiming 25 years later in January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him when I was a little child in elementary school around the age of 10 myself, have all been caught. Law enforcement has one talking point, and that talking point is to try to claim that someone might have said something bad around me when I was a child. You have to understand the fact that if someone did say something bad around me as a child, it was only when I was a child, not even mentally mature enough yet, since my mother said on February 15th at 8:30 p.m. that as soon as I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, I was never seen around anyone, even as a child, ever again. And law enforcement would have handled that situation of anyone saying anything bad around me as a child by running sex schemes and money fraud with those individuals, just like how they did with Sohaib, just like how they did with Assad, just like how they did with my dad, the greedy framer, who is let go of after being tipped off after what he was doing in 2011. All these people let go of by law enforcement, never cared about a thing. And now law enforcement, after all their false testimonies have been caught against me, only due to extreme envy of my brain savant, that they don't even let me stare into textbooks anymore, law enforcement wishes to now claim that someone said something bad around me as a child, except law enforcement doesn't want to do it themselves. They want to get other narrators to do it. And now we found out that other narrators like Assad were absolutely guilty themselves as adults for crimes, while I could not be as a child, since I was never present around any crime scenes, and merely if anyone said anything bad around me as a child, and since the war did occur when I was an 11-year-old child, it doesn't mean anything, since after I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I was never seen in any setting ever again. And my mother claimed on February 15th, 8:30 p.m. that this was only because she had to leave me behind with someone while she worked at fast food restaurants, anyone who was willing to watch me for free. It only occurred till I was a mentally mature enough child who could be left at home alone, and that was it. After that, I was never even present anywhere ever again. And we know for a fact I'm telling the truth on this due to the fact that the wedding incident that law enforcement tried to frame me for in the year 2023, I would not even be present there. And the people who would be present there would never be questioned for anything ever. Instead, they would run sex schemes and money fraud with law enforcement till this very day today. And that really sums up how much law enforcement really cared about any quote-unquote investigations, only to try to frame me for anything possible that they could, with now all the fabrications being caught. And now that all the fabrications are caught, they're left with this talking point that they cannot use themselves. They give it to other people like Assad. Assad's more guilty than anyone could ever be as an adult. And yet he just packs up and leaves as soon as he's found guilty. My dad, the greedy framer, is more guilty than anyone could ever be for saying anything around a child, since he was doing things that were extremely dangerous in 2011 with his sermons. The law enforcement basically handled like how they handled everything throughout the course of this quote-unquote investigation by tipping him off instead of investigating him or asking other people in the sermons about what was going on. No, none of this. Law enforcement just tipped him off. And that's exactly what they've been doing for every single thing since 2001, as the facts and evidences will show.